My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
I thought it was ATP Weekly, but we only really had Lloyd Harris there. But however, I have to say that it's worth being a friend of the show because a lot of these players won today at the French Open qualies, right? I mean, you had Zeynep Sonmez, Lloyd Harris, Susan Leymans beat Daphne Pechi Pericard, I think. So yeah, it's worth being a friend of the show. Vansh, are you happy that you're a friend of the show? And welcome to ATP Weekly.
Yes, being a friend of the show is delightful, and yeah, I haven't been on one of these ATP weeklies in a while, so
Yeah, you know the drill though. We have to talk about what happened in the last week on the ATP events, which basically was just Rome, of course. And we don't have, we don't really do this between the first and second week of Rome. So basically, we need to talk about the whole 2 weeks, but of course, the main priority will be the players who stayed until the end. And speaking of that, Alexander Zverev won Rome, and I'm sure we mentioned that on the Iga and Carlos show as well. But it it is pretty fitting that Zverev won this title, right? After Tsitsipas picked up one this clay season, Rublev picked up one this clay season, and Casper Ruud won a 500. So it is kind of fitting for Alexander Zverev, who's kind of on a similar level of being a French Open contender, to pick up this one and his sixth ATP 1000 title at that.
yeah, he is part of that same tier as Steph and Casper, and people are going to be looking at him to go pretty far now in Roland Garros as the number 4 seed. Yeah, he had a pretty good week. He served pretty well throughout the whole event. He was hitting his forehand better than I've seen him hit it in the last 2 or 3 months for sure. And obviously in the final, I mean, it was 6-4, 7-5, but it felt a lot more one-sided than that, just given the the serving dominance that he had in that whole match, and how little Jari was able to do on the first serve return. And then also just from the baseline, how he was able to soak up all that pace, just absorb all the big blows that Jari throws at him, and yeah, just like keep the ball really deep and return well. And wasn't the most interesting final for sure, but yeah, it felt pretty clear that he was gonna win it based on the way he was serving throughout. And yeah, I mean, at least there was some moments where there was maybe only one service game where I was like, okay, maybe Jari can get back into it, and that was one game where he won 2 points on return. That was about it. And then just ace service winner, and then yeah, it was basically over in a flash after that.
Yeah, but the tough moment for Zverev probably didn't come in the final, right? The tough moment for him came in the semis, and that was
Right.
against another Chilean, against Alejandro Tabilo, who of course we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I think that was the moment of vulnerability, because otherwise, as you
Yeah.
said, he was making it so routine with the serving, with how solid he was. And then he comes on to the court in the semis and he just gets blasted off of it in the first set by Tabilo.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a very impressive win from Zverev, but he definitely raised his serving quality in sets 2 and 3. Again, it was just 70% first serves in while still getting amazing placement and precision and power. And besides that, in the key moments, he was just a wall. Second set tiebreak. I mean, all the rallies that Tabilo was earlier picking up just very quickly, some great attacking combinations. That's not happening anymore. Suddenly everything has to be won in 30 shots, and Tabilo was not ready for it. So I guess it was not the most impressive title for Zverev, but it's a funny thing that he's got 6 of these, because for the past 2 years he hasn't, well, basically since the injury, he hasn't really been a main contender for ATP 1000 titles, right?
Yeah, this was his first final of a Masters 1000 since the Madrid final where he lost to Alcaraz. So yeah, it has been a while since he's been in this spot, like to win a 1,000. But in the Tabilo match, yeah, you're so right. Like the second set tiebreak, I mean, that was when Tabilo started really feeling the nerves, and he kind of got away from what was working, which was like just really attacking explosive tennis, taking it to Zverev, and he just got really tight and started rolling the ball in, which I guess is kind of normal because he's hadn't been in that situation before, and he probably thought, "Oh crap, I'm about to be in the final. This is actually about to happen for me." And then, then Zverev just outsolids him from the rest of the match. But yeah, that was probably the only time in the tournament that Zverev felt any sort of jeopardy. The rest of his wins were all pretty much straightforward. I think, right? Like pretty much straight set wins. It isn't the most impressive title for sure. Like this is the only title I think where he hasn't beaten a top 10 player, Masters level, or any of the big titles that he's won. So I mean, he beat Taylor Fritz, who's number 11, and the draw sort of opened up for him quite a bit with Djokovic going out, and then with all the other players not playing. So we'll see if he can carry it over to Roland Garros, where, like we said before, he has the game physically to do it, but mentally closing it out in the big moments in the semis and finals has been still a problem for him. So we have to see if he's actually able to get over the hump.
Yeah, it's been said already a few times that like this French Open is the most open since 2004 probably, and there are a few players who can capitalize. Definitely he's one of them. I'm going to ask you like a pretty tricky question. If the French Open finals happens tomorrow and Zverev has to play Rublev, Tsitsipas, or Ruud, which of these players does Alexander Zverev beat in that French Open final?
Probably Rublev.
You can name all three. You can name none. I'm not saying, there's just one answer.
Yeah, I think his best shot is Rublev. Just given the given that Rublev, that would be his best result up until that point, and obviously the matchup is very favorable for him up until last year, first half of the year, where Rublev actually got him a couple of times, but that wasn't best of 5. So best of 5 nerves. I would still probably pick him over Rublev. Tsitsipas, that's a trickier one for him, certainly head-to-head wise. I might pick Stefanos in that matchup if that was a hypothetical final. And against Casper, I mean, they played last year in Roland Garros in the semis, and that was surprisingly very one-sided in favor of Ruud. So that's why I'm tempted to say Rublev right off the bat, 50-50 against Casper, and then probably like 40-60 against Steph.
Yeah, can't disagree with anything there. Zverev Tsitsipas is actually a match that I would like to see. I know this might come as a surprise to some of you because I've said a few things about matchups like Zverev Medvedev and probably Zverev Tsitsipas. I remember that when they played in Acapulco a couple of years ago, the final, a friend of mine was like shocked that I wasn't going to watch it. And he's like, you stay up to watch Challenger finals between the player ranked 250 and 230, and you're not going to watch Zverev Tsitsipas. And I'm just saying, there's nothing that interests me about this matchup. But I think I figured it out. I think I know what's changed now. We talked about this when Ruud and Tsitsipas maybe were playing earlier in the season, or like there was this Los Cabos draw where you have Thompson and some top players, right? And I remember saying that like it only really interests me in case of Thompson because otherwise like these players aren't gonna like change their careers because of this one final win or loss. Whereas right now, it kind of feels like it might impact their whole careers. And I was already getting excited about this Zverev Tsitsipas Rome final by the time we made like the quarters maybe here. Of course, that didn't happen. I would be excited to see it at the French for sure. But the guy who stopped it was Nicolas Jarry, who made his first ATP 1000 final. I think throughout the season, we had like some moments when we were maybe a little disappointed with how Jarry followed up his 2023 campaign. Again, it depends on expectations. Like mine personally weren't too high. I thought that whatever Nicolas Jarry became in 2023, that's kind of his, peak version. I don't think he's going to be much better than this. But then again, ATP 1000 final. He's not the most ridiculous ATP 1000 final we've had, but still somewhat unexpected.
Yeah, for sure. I think a stat that represents Jarry pretty well. He's 3-2 against the top 10 this year, 8-8 against players outside the top 50. So
Hmm.
that kind of tells you he's, can be, extremely streaky, and it all sort of depends on when he's on song, because like he was on song this week, his pace from the baseline is just overwhelming. Like his forehand, he was hitting on average 85 to 89 miles per hour, particularly the matches against Tsitsipas and Ruud, where you can sort of rush them on one wing. Paul on the forehand, Stefanos obviously on the backhand, and yeah, those are maybe more favorable matches for him than a guy like Zverev. Then again, he has beaten Zverev twice in the past before as well, and he is dangerous, but yeah, he sort of really, it's a good run for him, because doesn't he also have Geneva points to defend? He won the title last week, so those 250 points are coming off. And he made the Miami quarters, and I think and obviously that's not even the best win of his season, because he beat Alcaraz in Buenos Aires before losing in that final to Diaz Acosta. But honestly, I think I wasn't that surprised, just given the peak level that he's shown so far in many clay court events, like from 2019 and 2023, mostly just those 2 seasons. But yeah, it was a very good effort. Like he competes pretty hard. He's got big weapons off the ground, and the serve is always just super dangerous. And yeah, I mean, I think he probably doesn't get enough credit for how well he actually moves. Like he anticipates and defends, and this isn't just like a big server. This isn't like a serve bot. This is someone who's much more well rounded than that, for sure. So yeah, I don't think any of the top guys want to see him in the third or fourth round for the most part. I mean, his record against most of the top players is pretty good, considering he doesn't bring it week to week. So yeah, hopefully we see more weeks like this from him.
I mean, on the one hand, you say he's more like all-rounded than people think, but then he also loses so many matches that
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, the top 10 record, of course, it's very good that you brought that up. I think he's kind of like similar to Hugo Humbert in that against the top 10, he just generally has like a 45-ish% record that doesn't necessarily translate against the rest of the tour. But well, right now we have both of them in the top 20, probably with like pretty little chances to like go to the top 10 or something. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. When it comes to Jari, the ATP 1000 finals in the most unexpected, but I certainly didn't really think that he was gonna get it this season, and well, in a way, perform even better than in 2023. And yeah, what was maybe so special about his run here? Because I think he had a few easier rounds, but I guess that Tsitsipas quarterfinal was probably the moment when like this run became this run, right?
Yeah, that was definitely the moment when he was, when he faced those 2 break points at 5-all in the second set, and he lost the first set, and you're thinking, okay, we're gonna see a Tsitsipas Zverev final here, and basically the writing is almost nearly on the wall, especially how well Tsitsipas was playing before. I know Diminor is a very favorable matchup for him, but he just destroyed him 6-1, 6-2, and he was looking really good up until that point. So for Jari to come back and get the win there, I thought was very good effort. I also remembered he was down 6-1 in the second set tiebreak against Arnaldi. So
Right.
and then he was also 1-set-all against Napolitano, I think, in the
Napolitano.
Napolitano, yeah, in the second match that he played. So there were definitely some tricky moments earlier on, but then also the third set against Paul, which was dicey in some of the earlier stages of that third set. So yeah, I mean, I guess the Tsitsipas win is the one that really stands out. But now he has a very good record against Steph. He's beaten him 4 of the 6 times they've played at ATP level, and I think on all 3 surfaces as well. So and this is the hardest surface to beat Tsitsipas in, slow clay.
Yeah, that Tsitsipas Jari match, it was kind of reminding me of the Tsitsipas Struff matchup, which happened
Yeah.
like a few rounds earlier, where usually it's super tricky for Steph, but then on slow clay you just kind of expect him to have enough time to neutralize the power and yeah, just defend the backhand side. This time he wasn't able to against Jari, even though the conditions probably suit him a little more. Although, yeah, Nicolas Jarry making the final, absolutely amazing, and definitely I agree that the Tsitsipas quarter was the moment that built this run. I mean, I think by the time we had so many players out, Djokovic especially, the Zverev Tsitsipas final was always looking like the biggest possibility, and then it never really happened.
Yeah.
And there was also a chance for something else that would have been special, and that would have been the all Chilean final with Jari and Tabilo.
Yeah.
Didn't get to see that, but still, Alejandro Tabilo, he defeated Novak Djokovic. I mean, of course, we can talk about how rough Novak was in that match, but it always gives you like a lot of confidence, and you gotta follow it up, which he did, which probably maybe is even more impressive than beating Djokovic on that day. That he was also able to produce an insane performances against Khachanov and Tabilo and Zhang.
Yeah.
And I guess in the end, just yeah, as you said earlier, that 6-1 set against Zverev, it really could have been an all Chilean final.
Yeah. It was so close. We were so close to that special moment for Chile. They would have both been in the final. But yeah, like you said, I was more impressed by the 7-6, 7-6 over Hachinov, because that's really a player that you sort of have to bring a good level, like sort of a litmus test type of opponent, and to really show that you've made that next step. So the fact that he was able to do that, and then the win over Zhang, like, I mean, and I think we already talked about how how close it was in the Zverev match, but but even against Novak, we can talk all about Djokovic being totally off and how much the water bottle incident maybe played into his performance, and you know where his career is at. But for Tabilo, like, he played his part really well. He was hitting really big forehands down the line. He was serving really well. He was just taking care of everything he needed to on his side of the net, and sort of never really allowed Djokovic to get into the match at all. So yeah, it was a pretty good week for him, and you know probably another player we have to watch out for RG. But um, yeah, this is definitely the biggest moment in his career. He won Auckland earlier this year, but this is another level up.
Yeah, in a way, I'm actually not too glad that Tabilo is seeded for Roland Garros, because having him as an unseeded player would be so chaotic.
Yeah,
He draws a very high seed right away, and we are speaking of a potential upset. And it's the same for someone like Navona. These guys who recently got to a seeding position. Like right now, they can't actually draw a top eight seed in the first two rounds. They are going to have a top eight seed in the third round, but they're not as consistent as them. You don't know if they're gonna get there, but if they do, of course, the payoff might still be very high for us and for them, basically, if they land one of the top eight seeds who will be a bit vulnerable when
right.
it
So
comes to.
Tabilo after this is 25 in the world, right? So he would play
Yeah,
1 through 8 in the third round
if no one withdraws, yes.
if no one withdraws. Yeah.
If actually he is 24th. No, sorry, he's going to be after Surundo, but yeah, in terms of the seedings, he
Okay.
will be 25th. Yeah. No, in terms of the seedings, he will be 25th. I looked at the wrong ranking. Anyway, never mind. 25th, Tabilo is 25th, Navona is 32nd, Fields is 30, Musetti is 31, Echeverry is 29. This is a great bunch of like very dangerous players to face in terms of the
Yeah.
1-8 seeds. Corda, I don't know if we count them, but we can count Grigspor, I think. We probably shouldn't count Tiafo at this stage. But like, yeah, Tabilo, Fields, Musetti, Navone, Echeverry, I would not want to play either of these guys.
At least Struff, where is he at? Is he even? Oh, he's not. He's unseated. Oh man.
Yeah, Struff is going to be unseeded, yeah.
Yeah.
39
That's going to
right
be very
now.
dangerous for. But matches like, for instance, like we talk about Struff. You mentioned Umber. You mentioned Jari as kind of being in like that similar boat, being very dangerous to some specific top 10 players. Do you think that changes in best of five? Like if you were to get Rude versus Struff or something, uh, in best of three, it always feels like Struff and Umber and Jari get those scalps, but then best of five, favors the top players, gives them more time to figure it out. Do you think we could see that come into play?
Gives them some time to figure it out, sure. But like, if we got Jari against whichever top player tomorrow in best of five, I don't think it would actually change all that much. Like, it could be a small percentage thing, but it's not like at this stage they have much to figure out against one another, right? You're just playing this guy with insane weapons. Nicolas Jari
Right.
led Carlos Alcaraz 5-2 at Wimbledon last year in the fourth set, and easily could have gone five. And who knows, maybe we don't get the Wimbledon title for Alcaraz then. Like, yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it's a major difference. It's generally, yeah, sure. best of 5 format suits the better players because on average they're going to be winning more. So like they're just going to have enough sample size to really show it. But
Yeah.
I don't think the change would be massive, at least in terms of these three.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember like Rude played Struff in Geneva, or was it Struff? No, Jari in Geneva last year en route
Yeah,
to
and then
and
Roland
then
Garros. Yeah,
Roland Garros. But yeah, I see. Like the gap isn't that big, even in best of
Geneva
five.
is different conditions as well, right? So
Yeah, with the altitude.
I think that was pretty important too. And that just from I guess it's also not like in at Roland Garros Jari came out and was just unplayable for Ruud, and then Ruud comes back into it because it's the longer format. Like it wasn't like that, right? He
Right.
was kind of like from start to finish wasn't as threatening to him than as he was in Geneva. So I think it's probably more conditions wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, another semi-finalist in Rome was also Tommy Paul. Um, I mean, Tommy Paul is absolutely fine on clay. We know that. Making the
Yeah.
semi-finals, maybe it's still a bit much for him, but in general, I mean, when he plays someone like Daniel Medvedev in the fourth round, Hubert Hurkacz in the quarterfinals, I guess he's just not going to be a massive underdog against these players on clay, right?
Yeah. Pretty much. His match against Hurkacz, that was the moment, right? Because it was very nervy, not the highest quality from both
Yeah.
players. Very, very patchy, very, very tight from them both. But he was able to pull through. I mean, I was surprised he hasn't had a top 20 win before this week on clay. So, we talked about him before as being a
How many
prospect.
times did he
something.
have the chance, by the way?
Good question. Not sure, but I mean, everyone talks about like, oh, he's a good clay court player, but I guess they're just still talking about the junior days because they're probably still referring to that 2015 Roland Garros juniors.
Honestly, I was more thinking about like his tour results rather than that, and just kind of standing out of the Americans in clay courts, I guess. But yeah, I will check how often he played top 20 players in clay then, because I just
I
can't think of
remember
many matches, honestly.
remember him playing Medvedev in 2021. I think a match against Rublev in Madrid.
Actually, quite a
2021
lot.
Roland Garros. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he's
actually
played
quite a
quite a few
lot.
fair few.
0-8, yeah, that's quite harsh.
Yeah. So, and obviously, I mean, Medvedev wasn't at his best at all this week. We could see that already in the Medvedev match. I think the serving was all over the place. Just he mentioned something about his shoulder bothering him
Yeah.
before the week started, and it actually wasn't the leg thing that we were thinking. Would linger a little bit longer after Madrid. So, yeah, what are you sort of expecting from Medvedev in Roland Garros? Like fourth round, quarters, third round, not much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not really putting him in the same category as Tsitsipas, Zverev, Ruud,
Yeah.
and Rublev. I know he kind of deserves to be there in a way. He's won a big title on clay before. I don't think that form is a major indicator ahead of this slam. However, sure, he has some issues with the shoulder. He hasn't been able to practice his serve normally. Maybe not as big a deal on clay, actually. But yeah, all in all, I guess I just can't really imagine him winning this title. I think there are
No.
like at least 20 players that I would put ahead of him. Like, guys like
Yeah.
Tabilo or Jari, for example. Like, I do think they have a stronger chance of winning the title than Medvedev. Maybe that's actually wrong. It's probably wrong. I just don't really believe in him, let's say, beating Tsitsipas and Zverev back to back at Roland Garros. Like, that this might be like, provided Alcaraz, Djokovic, and Sinner don't sort out their issues, which we don't know if they might, but let's if they will. But like, let's assume they won't for a second. I just can't really imagine Daniel Medvedev going through, let's say, Zverev, Tsitsipas back to back, and it seems like that's what you might have to do this year's Roland Garros to win it.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about Tommy Paul, and certainly he's someone who's shown quite a good deal of results on hard courts, and Australian Open semi-finalist and Indian Wells earlier this year. But actually, like now, that's two pretty slowish tournaments, Masters 1000s, where he's made the semis, and was very close to the final at Indian Wells. So, and then obviously he's coming off of that ankle roll against Medvedev, and then again in Miami. But is he someone to potentially go the farthest of all the Americans in Roland Garros, or you think probably Taylor Fritz deserves a shout as well for getting to making all the final 8 of all the Clay Masters?
Yeah, top 5 ball striker or top
Yeah.
5 mover. Huh. Uh, no, honestly, tough to say. I mean, I kind of trust Tommy maybe to go deeper than Taylor. Like, I think Tommy is probably, maybe that's a stretch, but I think he might be less vulnerable to upsets. But on the other hand, I don't know if he really has the top game to, again, like contend for the title. Taylor, if the draw opened up, maybe. I think Fritz probably has a higher ceiling, but I'm not actually sure he's gonna go deeper than Paul. I don't think either will be like a massive factor really. Probably neither American will be. You've
Yeah.
got definitely guys like Shelton, Fritz, Paul. I mean, all of them can win a few rounds, but I just don't know if I really see them fighting for that title.
Well, I guess it kind of depends on the draw. They haven't both been past the third round yet.
Yeah.
For Taylor, this is the only slam he hasn't been past the third round.
I guess Tommy also at Wimbledon.
Right. But yeah, should we talk about the Djokovic and Nadal part of it earlier in the week?
In terms of Rome, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like with Novak, obviously, he plays that good first match, gets through it again, and then when he's coming off the court, then he's not looking, and a fan leans over, water bottle slips out of their bag, and hits him, pretty hard in the head. So, and obviously it was a very shocking moment, and probably hurt quite a bit, and he was in the hospital, and then yeah, we have that moment that John put up on the screen there, and then of course, then he comes in the next day wearing a helmet, making a good joke out of it, which I thought was actually pretty funny. And then, and then afterwards, we're like, okay, yeah, so I think he's good to go and play. And then he shows up on the court the next day, and he just does not look like Novak at all. I mean, just rushing in between points, like completely just going for bailout drop shots, like double faulting on all the big moments, and just looked like he wanted to be anywhere but on the tennis court. It was like the closest thing I've seen to Vienna 2020 when he played Sonego after he got the world number 1 ranking. But yeah, it was just he couldn't really explain it right in his press conference. He was like, I don't know if it's the water bottle. I'll have to go and do some checks and see. And he wasn't ruling it out. So, what do you sort of make of that in terms of the performance that you saw, and also within the context of his whole season so far?
If he had a concussion, then it's very explainable. If he didn't, no clue. I mean, we've definitely had some pretty weird performances from Novak this year. Not only this one. 12 and 5 for the year, I think he is. Obviously, for like Djokovic standards, that's absolute trash.
Yeah.
Two semifinals. And what can he do? I mean, I think by now it's just clear that he thinks he needs more match rhythm because he's signing up for Geneva. We're probably going to talk about that later as well, maybe about his chances. But like in terms of the sheer decision, of course, this is something that he did in 2021 as well, winning Belgrade and Roland Garros. I don't know if after a few years, is it still possible for him to do this physically? Maybe he's just gonna. Well, I mean, I don't even know if he's gonna win Geneva, given basically again, like the physical aspect and where he has been this year, and just sort of no titles yet, no finals yet, and generally not looking like the world number 1. But there's always that chance that he just fires up. There's always that chance because he's the greatest of all time, and I basically have no idea what to expect from him at Roland Garros. I can't yet join the Novak has declined to a point where he won't win anything team. I don't think it's anywhere close to me saying that, but it's definitely one of the most worrying seasons that he's had, especially as there doesn't seem to be like an underlying physical condition behind it, right? Like there's no big injury to speak of. It's kinda either just a horrible year, the worst he's had in ages, or just actually decline.
Yeah, I guess Roland Garros itself will tell us whether or not it's actually real decline, like the whole Roland Garros, Wimbledon, Olympics stretch.
Yeah.
But in terms of him playing Geneva, was probably not something most people expected. But it does make sense given that he is short on matches.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that he wants to get some match rhythm for sure, that he thinks he needs it. I was not expecting it at all, for sure, despite the early roll makes it. But yeah, as I said, I mean, he's done it once before. It's probably a good way of actually getting some quality practice in. 4 matches in Geneva only, potentially. You can get some actually, some really tough opponents. It's definitely going
Yeah.
to be a stronger run if he goes until the end. It's gonna be a stronger run than that Belgrade 2021 title, because that was what Moraing, Martin, Molchan,
Yeah.
Korea.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
no top 50 players at the time. Molchan and Korea, of course, got to the top 50 eventually, but probably not at the time. So here, I mean, he might literally face Yannick Hanfmann at altitude in the first round or first match for him, actually. So yeah, it's going to be much tougher than that Belgrade 2021, which maybe even is good for him. I don't know.
Yeah. Could be good. We'll see if he actually is able to play 4 matches, or maybe he gets 2 really physical tests and then pulls out. That's also an option. So yeah, and then we'll also see. I think for Novak, also the biggest indicator is also like his motivation, like where he's sort of at more than the other two
Yeah.
members of the big three. It's more about his motivation than like physical decline, maybe. But we'll see. Like, um, yeah, has been kind of a strange year. Like, certainly, but someone who it is most likely his last season is Nadal, right? And we saw him beat Zizou Bergs from a set down. Um, and then plays against Hubert Hurkacz, winning just 4 games, but probably the first 2 or 3 games were like about 30 minutes, and then after that, Hubert really took over. So, what did you make of his performance there, and then also the ovation that Nadal got when he left Rome, and where is he? Where are we at expectations wise for him?
Yeah, I think he declined to have like a ceremony or anything there
Yeah.
hosted for him, which he also did in Barcelona, I think.
Hmm.
So like it's kind of just I understand that, like he just wants to have 1, 2 of them, maybe 3, and not just have it every other week, which makes sense. But obviously the fans want to say goodbye, so they show up, and yeah, there are these ovations. In terms of the Hurkacz match, truth be told, after watching Nadal against Bergs, I was not thinking he can win against Hurkacz. 4 games is still pretty rough. As you said, it could have been a little closer, but some people also overreact with this. Like, I saw Craig O'Shaughnessy live tweet this match essentially, and he like went full fanboy mode. Nadal goes down 1-6, and he says this easily could have been 6-1 the other way. And he starts the second set, and and he's just constantly talking about, yeah, you can see the fire now with Rafa or something like that. And like he went just straight up total fanboy mode. And it was funny to me because just watching the match against Hurkacz, I don't know, I saw a shadow of a player, and I think
Yeah.
anyone who was looking at it objectively kind of had to, because well, Rafa still has his tennis IQ, he still has his lefty topspin, sure, and it's pretty tough to combat that for many players. I mean, we saw what Flavio Cobolli did in Barcelona, for example. Zizou Bergs to an extent as well in the first round in Rome. But yeah, I mean, Hurkacz kind of had none of it. He's been pretty good against lefties. He's got the phenomenal serve that, of course, is even bigger contrast against Nadal right now. And it just kind of begs the question, if Nadal shows up at Roland Garros, how is he beating a Hurkacz quality type player? Like, how is he winning that in the best of 5 as well? And yeah, I just don't really see how he does that. It does feel a lot more like in 2022. Of course, we had the foot injury, and no one believed that Rafa can win the French Open, and he did. But this year, it just feels a lot more unrealistic. Just to see him compete against like a very strong top 10, top 20 player for 5 sets as well. Yeah, I just don't think he's gonna do it. I understand wanting to say goodbye in Paris, but I think it's likely that he's gonna like destroy his perfect record there a little bit. Should he be looking at that though? Probably not.
I don't think so. What it's 112 and 3, so even if it's
Yeah,
112 and 4, I don't really see how that changes
I mean,
his.
it's still gonna be ridiculous. It's just gonna be
Yeah,
less
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. So I mean, I think he's gonna be looking at it, just trying to see how much better he can get from Rome. But yeah, that match against Hurkacz, man, he was struggling to find finishes on his forehand against Hurkacz's speed and court coverage, and then you
Yeah,
combine that with the serve differential. It was pretty striking to see. Yeah, like you could actually see that how he's a step slow and how much better Hurkacz was looking in all aspects from the serve, return, ground strokes. I mean, it was like Nadal's speed was up as well, but it really wasn't doing that much for him on the serve. And I think he was pretty disappointed. I mean, in his performance, like he was hoping to build off of Madrid, to build off of Madrid, which was a very good run for him to the fourth round there. But yeah, I mean, so we'll see. It's still going to be one of the most watched draw ceremonies probably of all time.
yeah.
Just just to see where Nadal falls in that draw,
Just because
because
he
he
can play
literally,
anybody.
yeah, we could literally see him play Djokovic Alcaraz in the first round. So from that standpoint, yeah, it'll be.
You think he was surprised by his own level? Like that's how he's been playing this clay swing. So I think by now he should realize that this is how he's competing at the moment. But yeah, I mean, as you said, the French Open main draw. I think everyone will be looking where Rafa is. Maybe he gets another Darwin Blanche in the first round, and then Paviji goes on Twitter and just said,
Yeah. I
"No,
think
no,
John
I
is
think
right that he
that's
was.
impossible."
I think normally Rafa plays down
Hmm.
expectations, but if you actually listen to what he was saying pre Rome, he was talking like higher about his chances this time than previous tournaments. He was like really thinking that this time was
Yeah,
going to
but
be
like
really.
after the first match against Bergs,
No, that's when like once he actually
yeah,
started playing the tournament, then I think he started to have a few more doubts.
okay.
But uh, but yeah, I think that's about as pissed off as you'll probably see him at a press conference. At this stage of his career, like.
And was
Yeah,
his
but I have to
nervousness
see like the
like
ovation that he
in
got when he was walking on
ages?
the when he was walking out of the site in Rome. Like that's so much cooler than any of those on-court ceremonies.
Yeah, I can actually agree with that for sure. I guess we can also give just like a brief shout out to anyone else in Rome. Is there a player who deserves to be mentioned here as someone who, other than these semifinalists, other than Nadal or Djokovic, really caught your attention this fortnight? I think Zhizhen Zhang making the quarterfinals, that was pretty huge. I was so excited about that
Mm,
Thiago Monteiro forefront as well, both of them having a fantastic Rome. Monteiro, of course, just the whole double was just the best moment of his career. And I think Francesco Passaro as well, like he deserves some sort of a medal. And even not talking about Turin, but just sheer Rome, like the excitement that he gave to the crowd was probably only matched by Rafa. And from start to finish, he was just playing the most ridiculous matches. I don't know who's the Jakub Bobro player of the week. I think it might be maybe Shramkova in on the
mm,
WTA side. I don't know, but if
yeah,
not, it probably should be Passaro, given also what he did in Turin later.
yeah. He had a ridiculous run into in the all the players that he beat under to that title. But as you said,
Yeah,
it started in Rome for sure. So
and he's not in French Open qualifying despite that, right?
mm, yeah, but I think it's only a matter of time before he's going to be in.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, he jumped
he's going to
107
be like,
spots, I think. So
yeah, he'll be. I think he was at the next 10 finals in 2022, was it?
yeah,
Yeah, but he
went
wasn't
up
in
to
it last year.
108, and then he
So
fell out to like went up to 108 at the beginning of 2023, and now he was 230 before when the cut was made for the French Open qualies. But yeah,
mm,
anyway, I think we might move on to talk about, because we also have in the title we have Yannick Sinner, so we should probably also mention Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz ahead of the French. And do we actually know much? I mean, Yannick Sinner, we learned during this Rome event that the doctors advised him to rest. The doctors advised him to skip the French Open. However, it looks like he will try probably. I mean, he's practicing at least.
Yeah, we saw him post pictures of him practicing, which on clay. So that means that he's probably going to give it a go now. I mean, he only has like 2 days now to pull out, right? Or 3 days maybe until the draw comes out.
Why not? I mean, he can
So
pull out, on Monday or Sunday.
yeah, I suppose we've seen that in the past, but for now, I guess we have to assume he's playing it. Same with Alcaraz.
Mm, I'm not
We
assuming
don't.
much. I think even the posts from Yannick were more like, let's try. Like let's try in terms of let's try practicing and then I'll make a decision. Like that's what I was thinking more
Yeah,
so. With Alcaraz, I guess we have even less info. But yeah,
yeah,
for both of them, it's just so unclear what sort of a factor they will be, whether they are going to be at their 100% best. I think earlier today on a watch along we did, I was just talking about sort of like their injuries limiting them in a different way. It's tough to say which one actually limits them more. Like Sinner more in terms of the physicality, but Alcaraz more in terms of being able to compete against a very strong player, I guess. So yeah, I personally just have absolutely zero expectations, but I kind of like that before the French Open, our attention right now will be focused on the other guys. Like our attention will be focused on the second tier because for all of them, this is a prime chance to grab a major. And
yeah,
for a few of them, we were already saying that, like, yeah, I mean, the game has passed you by. The best youngsters are already way better than you, and you might never get that shot.
yeah. And we've seen them be so consistent year after year now for 5, 6 years in a row. Always being in the top 10, always contending in Masters events, always being in the ATP finals. But they've never tasted that major glory except for Medvedev one time. So,
Yeah.
so this is like you're not going to have a better chance than this. It's now or never. You're not going to see Alcaraz and Sinner injured at the same time. For majors for more than one major like this, like it's very rare. So they've got to grab it now, and yeah, it doesn't make the rest of the locker room feel like, okay, I can, even if Roland Garros is not my best major, I can go deeper than I have in previous years, because like since 2004, you usually know who we usually have known who the top 3 or 4 contenders really are, and this time, like, we're not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, for a few years we knew, well, for not only for a few, but like for many years we knew there was one contender, and if he
Yeah,
loses to anyone, it's already a shock.
right. And then we always had Djokovic and Federer waiting in the wings team for a while, so it's pretty
Yep.
clear. But not this
I
time
guess there
around.
was
There's a
a
lot of question
Djokovic
marks.
Murray year, but then again
Yeah,
you have contenders that were too strong for the rest of the field, or maybe not too strong for Radek Stepanek or Matthias Borg. That's a topic for another day. The 2016 Clay and his
yeah,
early round struggles before making the final.
yeah.
Um, Carlos and Yannick look impressive in the first round and two, and then they'll shoot up as big favs again, especially Carlos. I think Matthew, you're right about this because if Carlos is hitting his forehand great in the first or second round, like it probably means that he's gonna be fine for the rest of the event. With Yannick,
Yeah.
the injury wasn't like visibly up, just wasn't apparent, right? So it's gonna
Right.
be maybe a little different. I think the question marks will maybe remain for a few more rounds. But with Carlos, yeah, if he's hitting his forehand like normal, probably. I
Mm.
would agree with that. And then we suddenly maybe stop talking about an open slam, but then we start talking about who is going to beat Alcaraz, Sinner, maybe Djokovic. So it could end in like 2 or 3 rounds. I agree. I would agree with that. Like that very open
Yeah.
French Open could just end with a few good performances from these top three players because they still have a quality difference
Right.
against over the rest of the field. And also Alexander Zverev. This is worth mentioning. With his Rome run, he gets the fourth seeding.
Yep.
That's actually pretty massive because now we don't have him in that 5-8 group. He can only face Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz in the semis. The 5-8 group is pretty strong, but then again, you kind of want to draw Medvedev or Hurkacz in your quarters, I think, because there are
Yeah.
no guarantees to get there. And even if they do, I mean, they're not at their strongest on clay. Rublev or Ruud, you might want to draw them. But then again, we also have Tsitsipas at number 9, which could shake things up a little. But that's also someone that a top player will not be able to face until the quarters. So I guess it's not that relevant. Maybe more like the fact that Holger Rune is number 13. And if the seedings, like, if the seedings don't change and if Yannick Sinner remains in the event, then Holger Rune will probably have to play if he goes to the forefront, because right now it doesn't seem like a even like a guarantee, but like he could face one of these guys, Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz, Zverev in the forefront, and that's not
Is
really
does 1
something
through
you would
4
like to
always
see.
go up against 13
13,
through
16.
16?
Yes.
Is it always like that? Okay, yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
And while they would probably not mind playing Paul, Shelton, or Humbert, Holger Rune is a different deal, I think, just because of the potential. That don't care about
Yeah.
the form.
That means you could literally get Medvedev versus Tsitsipas in the fourth round.
Oh no.
Because 5 versus 9.
Yeah, 25%.
Yeah.
25%, I guess. So yeah, this could be rough for the eyes. But the
Uh,
minor there as
Not as
well,
bad as
like
Medvedev
that's
versus Zverev, right?
someone
I
you
mean,
want to
that's even
draw.
worse.
Medvedev Zverev, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that's the worst.
Medvedev Tsitsipas I'm also a little tired of, but as I mentioned, Zverev Tsitsipas is the
Okay.
combination out of these three that I would love to watch at the moment. Give it to me tomorrow. Um, yeah, and I guess that's more or less it for the French. Let's briefly talk about Geneva, Lyon, and also we have the French Open qualifying this week. Maybe we'll start with the French qualifying. Actually, I think two major storylines today, and one of them was Dominic Thiem, who of course was snapped for the wild card. Should we
Yeah.
even talk about this? Like, is this something that you have a strong opinion on? Whether Dominic Thiem should have received that French Open wildcard? I mean, today at Susan Langland, because that's where he played, like 10K people showed up.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it depends. Like, what is the goal of the wild card, right? Is to generate the maximum amount of interest for a tournament, and to, from a business fan perspective, to get as many eyeballs on the event as possible. And I thought Team was worthy of it because of because of how much he's given to the event in the past, and just how popular of a player he is, and that it's his last year. So it was definitely controversial for sure to not have him get that wild card. At the same time, he hasn't been anywhere near that level for the last 2 years. So maybe they thought it through, and they thought that in the qualies that could mean that you get the most buzz in qualifying. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, where does it really end? Because it's, for the most part, FFT, they only give wildcards to their own players, right? So like, and you have some reciprocal wildcards as well. So I don't know, like, wildcards are never going to be fair, and like, yeah, but it was definitely very rough to not give it to Team. And like in the past, I'm mostly like not pretty neutral about that, like who they give it to, who they don't. But in this case, I really thought that Team would get one.
Yeah, I didn't, because in the past 10 years, besides the reciprocals, only Murray once landed a non-French wildcard. And also, right now, France has so many players to give them to. So, like, it would actually be painful for them to skip somebody, which is also why Pui didn't get one, which we're probably going
Mm.
to talk about later. Well, maybe not about the wildcard, but about his match. But
Wow.
anyway, I was just not considering this a real possibility. I was from the very start. I was thinking team isn't gonna get a wild card, obviously. So
Mm.
I wasn't outraged by this. If I was handing out the wild cards, I would probably fit them in. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, that's just how the FFT has been. The French Federation has been working with this, so I was expecting it. But all in all, I mean, I think he's still gonna get a pretty good send off. Like in Paris, I don't know if he loses in the qualifying, maybe he makes the main draw. Uh, I don't really get the business argument of things, because we are talking about Roland Garros. Like, they're gonna sell tickets anyway, and there is also another goal in wildcards, which is like helping out your young talents, and France has a lot of them. Well, not only young, I guess. Gasquet also got a wildcard because he's French and also wrapping up his career
Mm.
likely, so you gotta give it to him. But yeah, I don't think one team, even Dominic Team, really changes the tickets sold. In fact, maybe more people bought tickets to the qualifying today because of him
No,
than
that's
they
the
would
argument,
sort
right?
of than they would for the main draw. But it was probably not a not even like a consideration for the French Open. I think it's just the strategy that they've been going for over the years to basically never give it to foreigners and the foreigners. Sorry, and yeah, I'm absolutely fine with that. Today he beat Franco Agamenone. He's gonna play Otto Virtanen on Wednesday. It's a very doable qualifying section. Might be tough against Giulio Zappieri, but I guess they've already played this year in Team One in Brisbane, so
Mm.
the draw is there. If he's
Yeah.
gonna play even as well as he did in sets 2 and 3 today, the draw is there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, hopefully he gets to be in the main draw and gets that really good send up on the main stage where more eyeballs are tuned in. I guess, especially on TV, that's so like crowd wise, but I guess that too. But
Yeah, TV definitely. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of people today who wanted to watch that match but didn't because, well, A, they can't use betting streams or something like that. B, their
right.
coverage of their qualifying in their country is probably trash. So yeah. Anyway, with the French Open qualies, I think we can also mention one more story for today, which was Hamad Medjedovic beating Luka Pui. That was the blockbuster round one everyone was looking at. That was the
Yeah.
round one where we thought that, well, both players could easily be in the main draw winning matches, and yet they unfortunately face one another. Pui did not get a wild card either, and that was also a bit of a snub. Personally, I think that he would have gotten it if Atmane didn't make round three, which kind of left them without a choice. They had to give that to him. And I know Herbert also looks like a weird wild card, but he won some sort of challenge where like he got a lot of points up until a certain date, and he
Mm.
had to be given one. I think again, if that challenge doesn't exist, clearly Pui is a better wild card than Herbert. But anyway, he played Medjedovic, and we did a watch along. I mean, I did a watch along for this match on Talking Tennis, and Medjedovic just was unbeatable. Like that was just incredible. If he keeps playing like this, I think he's gonna be last year's Thiago Seyboth. Throw out
Mm.
some massive seed in the first round or second round of Roland Garros.
Yeah.
Team against Nadal in the first round again? No, no way.
Yeah, rematch of Brisbane. But Medjedovic, yeah, I mean, super easy power he has on the forehand, and he just when he's on, he just looks so unplayable, like he did at the next gen finals, and it seems like he can kind of carry it over across surfaces too. And I mean, the Rome run has to give him a lot of confidence, even though he didn't get that win in the end over Medvedev. It was still like such a good effort. So after struggling with injuries for most of this year, so he must be. Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. Like the next, say about the build of 2023.
But
Could
a
you see
better
him
one.
getting all the way to the second week, or is that way too far?
With a good draw, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I think legit, like, give him some good health because obviously this year has been rough. But like, yeah, give him some good health, and this time next year he's in the top 25.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. This time next year, Medjedovic will be in the top 30. That's what I'm
Okay, how
gonna
about
say.
this? If you want team versus Nadal round one, then you
Mhm.
should want Djokovic versus Medvedev round one.
Yeah, I think Hamad would have a very good shot to win, but I think that I would still like him to maybe land in something slightly more doable because I'm just afraid that would be a bit much. And Djokovic is such a mentor to him as well. You don't really know, right? So I
Okay,
would
fine, round
probably
two.
more like him to like land a Hurkacz, for example, or round one, or Alex de
Okay.
Minaur. Like these are guys he would be, in my eyes, maybe even the favorite against. But of course, a lot also depends on fitness. He struggled with this in the past. Last year at Roland Garros, he was barely getting through in the qualifying. The same at Wimbledon. I think he only won one set against Jesper de Jong. Maybe was it in the no? Was it Jesper? No, Jesper was not. It wasn't Jesper. Who was it that Chris O'Connell was at Wimbledon, and who was it that Medjedovic lost to in the first round at the French last year? And it was a pretty horrible performance. I mean, they were winning sets like 6-1, 6-2 all the time, all sets. I don't know. Anyway,
Mm.
let's maybe also briefly talk about Geneva and Lyon. So in Geneva, of course, the biggest story is Novak Djokovic. We could have had him playing Andy Murray, and we still might. But Andy Murray is
Yeah.
7-5, 4-1 down, double break to Yannick Hanfmann, and they will have to continue tomorrow. Yannick Hanfmann at altitude as well. But yeah, do you just see Djokovic as the main favorite in Geneva, or is there anyone else who like kind of catches your attention? Especially, of course, Casper Ruud, the two-time champion.
Yeah, mainly I was going to say Casper and all the other seeds like Casper, Shelton, Fritz, players like that. I mean, those are the players you have to be looking. It is like a pretty strong 250 compared to even compared to previous Geneva editions. It feels really strong. So hopefully, I mean, yeah, like Djokovic for me is the main name. Like it's a really good get for the tournament, but probably we'll also be looking at Draper Mahach, where like right away is a really good first round.
And that's actually court 1 tomorrow.
Whoa, yeah.
It was supposed to be on center, but yeah, because it got moved, it's actually on court 1 tomorrow. I think they just didn't wanna like, because they announced the order of play earlier, and they just didn't wanna like move a match from center to court 1 for tomorrow. I think that was the idea, because otherwise Goffin, Moreno de Alboran, like that's not really a center court match over Draper Mahach. No sword that Murray is just leading the ace count over Hanfman. So that was like a light
That's random.
joke from John in the chat. And we also have the tournament in Lyon. Arthur Fields, the defending champion, is not defending that title. What do you think about that, by the way? About that move from Mr. Fields?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was going to play it, but maybe he just doesn't want to go through a similar experience like he did last year, where he was just so fatigued and
that's what he
didn't
said.
get to show up in the first
that's
round.
what he said. Yeah.
So maybe he's sort of thinking that he actually has a legit chance to make a deep run and at least get to the third round of Roland Garros. So maybe that's probably why. Plus, he also won the 125 this week, so he's not, he's gotten points from other places that he didn't maybe last year. So I guess
75. But an important
Makes
thing to
sense.
mention is that he withdrew before he made that run. Like he withdrew, I think, maybe after beating Botic, or maybe even before beating Botic in the second round. So he was kind of banking on a big Bordeaux run, but well, he got it in the end. So in the end, I like that decision. And what you said is precisely why he did it, according to an interview with him. So like, yeah, he just desperately wants to avoid that situation where last year he entered Roland Garros and had nothing left for the first round. And with Lyon, though, like it's definitely not as top heavy. It's still a very good draw. It's definitely not as top heavy as Geneva, though, and that I think makes it very hard to like even pick a winner from this. Like it just looks extremely tricky to predict.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like Surrender though. Maybe is like someone you could look at. Maybe he could get a title this week. Maybe because like Bublik isn't a super strong second seed. Same with Humbert. I'm not even sure how strong he is. Maybe like a Pedro Martinez. Maybe like the winner of Pedro Martinez and Zyba Wilch could go on a run. I don't know. Maybe you just end up getting an Echeverry versus Surrender final, and then you just that seems like a very plausible possibility. But what about Cameron Norrie? Why is he not playing this tournament? Isn't Lyon one of his best courts?
He made the final, right, in 2022.
I think he won it, right?
No, he won it in 2022 and made the final in 2021 or something like that, right?
Yeah, he made the final in 2021, lost to Steph, and then won it in 2022.
Lost the final to Steph and then won the title over Molchan, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Swarna, this is a tough question. Who is better, Fields or Medjedovic? I mean, it can be approached in many ways. The problem is one player is underperforming right now, and the other just played a ridiculous match today. And because of that, like, I kind of want to say one of them, but no, I'm not going to answer that. I just don't know yet. But I hope that both of them become as good as they possibly can. Vansh indeed cannot stop talking about Cam Norrie. Like, he's literally looking at a draw where Cam Norrie isn't even involved. I think the only Brit there is Dan Evans, who lost today. And for some reason just comes up with Cam Norrie anyway, that's so yeah, sure. Cam Norrie, Lyon, yes, that's been one of his best events. I like what you said. I mean, Serundolo Echeverry final, I would dig that, but I have no clue if it's happening. Yeah, there's so many players there that can potentially go far. Some of the top seeds like Umber or Manarino, I don't really believe in that much, or Bublik, right? So the
Yeah,
top three seeds are all a little
they're a little
sketchy.
weaker to me. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
even like a
that
Tiafo right
makes
now,
for
like
very
he could lose to Munar. So
oh yeah, Munar Tafo isn't. By the way, like if you were to guess, who is the favorite in that match according to the bookies? Because I don't know. I'm gonna check now.
I think Munar might even be a slight favorite.
I think
I wouldn't be
Munar might be
shocked
the favorite, right? That's
because
pretty
like
crazy, but
yeah, yeah.
not even slight. I mean,
Oh
nah,
wow.
they're basically not giving Tiafoe a chance. It's like
Okay, that's good.
1.50. I don't know if you know European odds at all, but it's like
That's like 60-40. That's
60
wow. Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have it that in favor of Munar, but
I was thinking I was gonna be bold saying that, well, Munar might actually be the favorite even for the bookies, but no, I mean they just expect him to dominate.
yeah,
Wow.
interesting.
Yeah,
What
that's
about
being said.
Monfils? Are we expecting much from him? Remainder of clay,
After
probably
this
not, right?
clay season, can I?
He might just be better on the faster surfaces now.
I hope he will, but yeah, after this clay season, I don't think I can really expect much from him at the moment.
Yeah.
So I tried to model my backhand.
Don't worry, it is
Zverev,
not modeled
Vanch
one
modeled
Cam
his
Nori. No,
backhand
no, no,
after
it's
Cam
not.
Nori.
I'm not that big of a fanboy. But
But yeah,
yes, he does have very
I
unique.
think we might as well end the stream, with this beautiful man on our screens. And I don't mean me or
Yes.
Vanch. I mean
Yeah,
Cam
I don't
Nori.
think we can get much better than that. So
Exactly, like that's the best thing that John has shown us so far in this show, and I think we might just end it. We talked
yeah,
about the French Open qualies, we talked about Lyon, Geneva, we talked about Rome, we talked about the situation ahead of the French in terms of the favorites. Of course, there's going to be some more content coming up your way. John is in Strasbourg. There's going to be some watch alongs from whatever, qualifying or Geneva Lyon probably as well. Probably some draw content too once it's out, or maybe even while it's out. So keep tuning into that. Thank you for all the recent subscriptions and stuff, likes on the videos. And yeah, thank you, Vanch. And we'll see you some other time.
yep. Thank you, and we'll
And
be back soon.
we will do the draws for Roland Garros Live and also Nick's WTA Power Rankings. As I remember last time, he made a bit of a fool of himself. No,
I don't remember what he had.
that's a bit of a stretch,
Yeah.
of course. But I remember. I remember there was something that was like very weird there. What was that? I can't remember. There was like one position that I was. But of course, in the long run, like most of his rankings were very acceptable. Anyway, yeah. Thank you guys in the chat as well, and see you soon.
Sure.
Number 10, Ons Jabeur. Number 9, Caroline Garcia. Number 8, Maria Sakkari. Number 7, Marketa Vondrushova. Number 6, Elina Svitolina. Number 5, Jessica Pegula. Number 4, Coco Gauff. Number 3, Arina Sabalenka. Number 2, Elena Rybakina. And number 1, Iga Swiatek.
Ready? Play.
My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Summers, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.